The Power of Prayer. German doctor in shock. Muslim child's prayer leads to conversion. Have you ever heard the story of a doctor, deeply rooted in her scientific beliefs, who was profoundly moved by two small children? This isn't just an ordinary story. It's one that touches the heart, challenges beliefs, and proves that the light of truth can emerge from the most unexpected places. In a hospital in Germany, a young doctor named Hannah Schneider, a 20-year-old woman, highly educated, logical, and a staunch believer in science, experienced something she never could have imagined. It all began with her encounter with a 5-year-old boy named Michael Ibrahim, a Muslim child whose heart was filled with unwavering faith. One cold morning, Hannah briskly walked down the hospital corridor, her quick steps reflecting her dedication and professionalism. As a pediatrician, Hannah had spent years treating children, and to her, every patient was a puzzle to be solved through knowledge and expertise. But that day was different. A nurse hurried over to her. "Doctor, Hannah, there's a new patient in room 204, a 5-year-old boy named Michael Ibrahim. He has a high fever and needs to be examined right away." Without hesitation, Hannah made her way to room 204. As she opened the door, her eyes immediately fell on the small, pale-faced boy lying in the hospital bed. Despite his weakness, his eyes sparkled with confidence. Sitting beside him was a woman in a hijab, softly reading something that sounded foreign to Hannah's ears. "Assalamu alaikum, doctor," the mother greeted gently. Hannah gave a slight nod, unaccustomed to such a greeting but maintaining her professional demeanor. "Hello, Michael." "I'm Doctor. Hannah, I'm here to help you. Are you feeling very sick?" she asked with a polite smile. Michael looked up at her, his face lighting up with a faint smile. "I believe God will heal me, doctor, but I'm also thankful there's a kind doctor like you to help," he replied softly. Hannah was taken aback. Children his age usually cried or complained when they were sick, but Michael spoke with an unusual confidence. She proceeded with the examination, noting his high fever and clear signs of infection that required immediate treatment. Yet something about Michael unsettled her. His eyes held a peace she couldn't understand, as if he wasn't afraid, even though his body was weak. After finishing the examination, Hannah turned to his mother. "Your son has an infection, but we'll provide the best treatment. There's no need to worry." The mother smiled gently. "Thank you, doctor. We believe in God, the Almighty Healer, and that He has guided your hands to help my child." Hannah was surprised. How could a mother whose child was clearly ill remain so calm and full of faith? For Hannah, the medical world was built on logic and science, not on unseen forces. That night, as Hannah returned to her room, her mind kept replaying Michael and his mother's words. She tried to shake them off, but they lingered, unsettling her logical thinking. Later that night, during her routine rounds, Hannah found herself outside Michael's room again. From inside, she heard a soft voice. Curiosity got the better of her, and she gently peeked through the small gap in the door. There she saw Michael, his tiny hands raised in prayer, his voice soft and sincere. His small hands remained lifted, his words filled with an unshakable confidence. "Oh God, I know you are so good. If I have to be sick, I accept it. But I want Doctor Hannah to know that you really exist. Show her that you hear our prayers." Hannah stood frozen outside the door, her heart pounding in her chest. Something about that innocent, heartfelt prayer struck deep within her. Why did it feel so powerful? She didn't understand how a small child could pray so sincerely, as if he was speaking directly to someone real, someone who was listening. Then, something happened. Michael's heart monitor, which had been fluctuating with unstable readings, began to steady. The erratic beeps smoothed into a calm, rhythmic pattern. Hannah's eyes widened in shock as she watched the change happen right before her. She couldn't move. Her logical mind scrambled for explanations. This had to be a coincidence. Maybe the medication was finally taking effect, or perhaps Michael's body had simply begun to heal on its own. But why did it happen the exact moment he finished his prayer? Her chest tightened, an unfamiliar emotion swirling inside her. Hannah had been a doctor for years, firmly grounded in science and facts, but never had she witnessed something so unexplainable. She stood there, staring at the monitor, feeling her carefully built world of logic begin to crack. "This doesn't make sense," she whispered to herself. She took a deep breath and shook her head, forcing herself to dismiss the thought. "It's just the treatment working," she told herself. "It has to be." Yet, as she returned to her office, her mind remained restless. She opened a medical journal, flipping through case studies, desperately searching for anything similar, any rational explanation. But nothing came close. Her thoughts kept drifting back to Michael's soft voice, his prayer echoing in her mind. "Oh God, I know you are almighty. I want Dr. Hannah to know you really—" Hannah shut the journal abruptly and leaned back in her chair, closing her eyes. The boy's words wouldn't leave her alone. She shook her head, trying to push the thoughts away, but they clung to her heart. The next morning, Hannah returned to Michael's room for a follow-up check. To her surprise, he looked significantly better. His fever had gone down, and a healthy blush was returning to his cheeks. He smiled brightly as soon as he saw her. "Good morning, Doctor. Allah answered my prayers," he said with innocent joy. Hannah felt her throat tighten. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. She tried to find something logical to say, something grounded in science, but nothing fit. "You're feeling better," she finally managed. Michael nodded enthusiastically. "Yes. I'm sure it's because Allah loves me." Hannah's heart wavered again. His simple faith, his pure belief, it was unlike anything she had ever seen. She glanced at Michael's mother, who sat quietly by his bedside, her face calm and serene. After a moment, Hannah spoke, unable to hold back her curiosity. "You seem so sure about your beliefs," she said, her voice soft. "Even when your child was so sick, you stayed calm. Why?" Michael's mother smiled gently, her eyes filled with warmth. "We believe that Allah is always with us, Doctor. Every illness comes with His permission, and healing also comes from Him. We just need to try and pray." The words echoed in Hannah's mind, but before she could stop herself, a question escaped her lips. "But what if no one hears the prayer?" Michael's mother looked at her with tenderness. "Doctor, are you really sure that no one heard it? Or maybe you've just never tried to find the answer with your heart?" The response hit Hannah deeply, stirring something inside her that she couldn't ignore. She sat there, speechless. All her life she had believed that faith was nothing more than a comforting illusion, something people turned to when they couldn't handle reality. But now, for the first time, she wondered if she had been the one refusing to see a larger truth. That night, Hannah returned home, her mind weighed down with questions she had never allowed herself to consider. She sank into the sofa, turned on the television, and flicked through the channels, but nothing could distract her. Her thoughts kept returning to Michael, to his unwavering prayer and to his mother's calm belief. Driven by curiosity, or perhaps something deeper, she opened her laptop and typed Islam into the search bar. "I just want to understand why they believe so strongly," she told herself. She spent hours reading about how Islam teaches total submission to God, about how prayer isn't just a ritual, but a direct conversation with the Creator. Some things she read clashed with her beliefs, but she couldn't deny how logical and profound much of it seemed. The more she read, the more she realized Islam wasn't just a religion. It was a complete way of life. Yet doubts lingered. She kept searching, looking for a flaw, something that would prove it was all just coincidence, that Michael's peace came from nothing more than a vivid imagination. But then, something happened that shook her to her core. The next morning, as Hannah arrived at the hospital, a sense of urgency filled the air. Nurses hurried past her, their faces tense. One of them ran up to her. "Doctor, it's Michael. He's having complications. His oxygen levels have dropped and his heart rate is unstable." Panic surged through Hannah as she rushed to his room. The scene was chaotic. Machines beeped frantically, nurses worked to stabilize him, and other doctors shouted out instructions. Amidst the chaos, Hannah's eyes locked onto Michael. He looked so fragile, his small body weakened. Yet there was something almost surreal about him. His lips moved gently, whispering prayers. What shocked Hannah most wasn't his critical state. It was his calmness. There were no tears, no fear, no panic. Just a soft, peaceful smile as he whispered, "God is always with me." Hannah's heart clenched. She felt as though something inside her shattered in that moment. "Why am I the one who's afraid?" she thought. "Why am I the one panicking?" She stood there, frozen, realizing that everything she had believed in, everything she had relied on, suddenly felt incomplete. For the first time, she considered the possibility that there was something greater than science, something beyond what she could explain. Later that night, after Michael had stabilized, Hannah sat alone in her office. Her hands trembled as she buried her face in them. She couldn't ignore it anymore. The questions swirling in her mind were too loud. Is there really more than just medical science? Is there truly a power beyond human understanding? She rubbed her face, feeling as if the world she had built her life around was crumbling. A part of her still clung to her identity as a scientist. But another part, a deeper part, wondered if she was finally ready to accept something greater. She couldn't ignore it anymore. There was something in Islam, in the simple prayer of a child like Michael, that felt so strong, so real. It shook the very foundation of her beliefs. And at that moment, Hannah realized the biggest question of her life had just begun. That night, Hannah sat in her car, parked on the side of a quiet street. The rain had just stopped, leaving the city streets shimmering under the glow of traffic lights. Raindrops on her windshield caught the light, creating scattered, blurry patterns. She gripped the steering wheel tightly, her thoughts spinning in every direction. It had been days since Michael's sudden complication, the moment that had shifted something inside her. Ever since then, Hannah felt like she wasn't herself anymore. A restlessness gnawed at her, a question that refused to leave her alone. She was a doctor, a scientist. Her life had been built on facts, logic, and reason. Everything could be explained, every symptom, every recovery, every loss. But Michael, his calmness in the face of death, his unwavering prayer, and his miraculous improvement, none of it made sense. What gave that child such strength, she thought? What made him so sure that there was a power watching over him? Hannah let out a long breath. One thing was clear. She could no longer pretend this hadn't affected her. 2 days later, after countless hours of thinking and second-guessing herself, Hannah made a decision. Reading articles online wasn't enough. Watching videos from behind a screen wasn't enough. She needed real answers. She hesitated before picking up the phone, but finally called Michael's mother. "Mrs. Michael, I was wondering if you could help me meet someone who can explain more about Islam." There was a brief silence on the other end before Michael's mother answered warmly. "Of course, Hannah. I'll arrange for you to meet the imam at our local mosque. He's a kind man. You'll feel comfortable talking to him." A couple of days later, Hannah found herself standing nervously outside a simple mosque. The building wasn't extravagant, modest Middle Eastern architecture with a peaceful aura surrounding it. Her heart raced as she stepped inside, the soft hum of prayers echoing faintly in the background. She was greeted by Sheikh Abdullah, a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a gentle smile. "Welcome, Doctor, Hannah," he said, leading her into a quiet room filled with books about Islam. She sat down, feeling the weight of her own nervousness. "What brings you here today?" Sheikh Abdullah asked softly. Hannah hesitated, unsure of where to start. Finally, she sighed. I I don't really know how to say this. I'm a doctor. I believe in science and facts. But something happened recently. One of my patients, a little boy, prayed, and his condition suddenly improved. I've tried to find a medical explanation, but I can't. I wonder if there's something more. Sheikh Abdullah smiled gently. What you witnessed wasn't a coincidence. It was the power of prayer. Hannah frowned, her logical mind struggling to accept it. But how? How can mere words change something so real, so physical? He nodded, understanding her skepticism. In Islam, prayer isn't just words. It's a direct connection between the human heart and Allah. When someone prays with full faith, it's not only about asking, it's about submitting and trusting the Creator, no matter the outcome. She was silent, processing his words. Then she asked the question that had been haunting her. But how could Michael, a child, have that much faith? Even in such a critical condition, he wasn't afraid. He was calm, peaceful. How? Sheikh Abdullah's smile deepened. Because he knew Allah was with him. A true believer doesn't only trust Allah in times of ease, but also in times of hardship. Fear comes when we feel alone. But someone who believes deeply never feels alone, not even for a moment. Those words pierced through Hannah like a sharp blade. She sat there, her mind racing. Fear comes when we feel alone. Was that why she had always felt restless? Was that why she kept seeking answers in science but still felt something missing? That night, Hannah couldn't sleep. Sheikh Abdullah's words echoed in her mind over and over. She had spent her entire life believing that science had all the answers. But now, for the first time, she questioned if there was something beyond it, something deeper. The next morning, she went back to work as usual. But now, every time she saw Michael, her heart felt heavier. She wanted to deny it, to push it away, but she couldn't. Something inside her had changed, and that change terrified her. A few days later, unable to contain her thoughts any longer, she met Sheikh Abdullah again. This time, her questions were heavier, more personal. She hesitated before speaking. What if someone wants to believe but still has doubts in their heart? Sheikh Abdullah's eyes softened with understanding. Doubt is part of the journey. Hannah, even in Islam, were encouraged to seek the truth with both heart and reason. Faith isn't about blind acceptance. It's about searching, questioning, and finding the answers that bring peace to the soul. For the first time, Hannah felt her heart soften. Maybe, just maybe, this journey was only beginning. Sheikh Abdullah smiled gently. Doctor, Hannah, there is no compulsion in this religion. If someone seeks the truth, they must do so with an open and honest heart. Hannah bit her lip, her thoughts swirling. But what if someone is used to living with a completely different way of thinking? What if their entire life is built on principles that contradict this? Abdullah's smile deepened with understanding. Many people before you have faced the same dilemma. Even some of the greatest minds in history struggled with these questions. Hannah leaned in, curious. Abdullah continued, You must have heard of Maurice Bucaille, a renowned French scientist. He initially doubted religion, but when he studied the Quran, he discovered scientific facts that no human could have known at the time it was revealed. This discovery led him to Islam, not out of pressure, but because his heart found the truth. Hannah sat in silence, absorbing this new information. She had never heard that story before. Sheikh Abdullah spoke softly. Islam doesn't ask you to believe immediately. It asks you to seek, to understand, and to decide with your conscience. Hannah took a deep breath, feeling a strange closeness to something she had never known before. But fear still lingered. In a near whisper, she asked, What if I'm afraid to accept the truth? Sheikh Abdullah met her gaze. Fear is natural, doctor. But remember this. The truth remains the truth, no matter how long we try to avoid it. In that moment, Hannah realized she could no longer run. Her heart was opening to something she had once rejected, leading her closer to the biggest decision of her life. That night, Hannah Schneider sat alone in her living room, surrounded by books and notes from the past few weeks. A translated Quran lay on her desk, along with scientific journals about the miracles in Islam and her personal reflections. Yet, despite all the knowledge, one question echoed in her heart. Was she ready to accept Islam? Her mind wrestled with fear and doubt, but amidst the turmoil, there was a peace she had never felt before. Memories of her life with Michael and her mother surfaced. Since her conversation with Abdullah, something inside her had shifted, filling a void she hadn't known existed. But what about her life? Her career? The people who knew her as a rational, scientific German doctor? What if they rejected her? What if she lost everything? She closed her eyes, seeking clarity. Then she remembered Michael's words, spoken just before he was discharged from the hospital. God is always with you, doctor. Hannah, you just need to listen to your heart. Those words pierced deep within her. She opened her eyes, breathing deeply. She knew what she had to do. The next morning, Hannah dressed in simpler clothes and returned to the mosque, not with questions but with a decision. Sheikh Abdullah greeted her warmly, as if sensing what was about to happen. Hannah, how can I help you today? He asked gently. Hannah looked at him, her voice steady. I'm ready. Alhamdulillah, Abdullah whispered. What makes you certain? I've searched everywhere for answers, she replied, tears forming in her eyes. But what I found was more than just answers. I found peace. Abdullah nodded. Islam is not only about knowledge, but about a heart that finds the truth. Hannah smiled through her tears. I think I found it. With Abdullah's guidance, Hannah recited the Shahada, her voice trembling but strong. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his servant and messenger. Tears streamed down her face as a profound sense of peace washed over her. Hannah had found the truth she had been seeking, and with it, a new beginning. As those words left Hannah's lips, she felt something she had never experienced before, a profound sense of relief, as if the heavy burden she had been carrying for so long had suddenly lifted. Her heart, once an empty shell, now overflowed with light. Tears streamed down her face, not from sadness but from a happiness so deep that it defied explanation. The days following her conversion felt like the beginning of a new chapter. Hannah immersed herself in studying Islam more deeply, finding beauty in practices she had once seen as rituals. Prayer, in particular, brought her a peace she never thought possible. But the journey wasn't without challenges. Some colleagues at the hospital questioned her decision, casting doubts on her professionalism, as if her new faith could somehow compromise her abilities as a doctor. Yet, Hannah remained. Steadfast, she knew that Islam didn't contradict science. It encouraged curiosity, questioning, and the pursuit of truth. Most importantly, it taught her to find peace in every step she took. A few months later, Hannah visited Michael and his mother. When Michael saw her, his face lit up. "Doc Hannah, you look different," he said, beaming. Hannah chuckled. "In a good or bad way?" "Very good," Michael replied enthusiastically. "You look happier." Hannah sighed gratefully. "It's because of you, Michael. Your prayers have changed my life." Michael smiled innocently. "I didn't do anything. Allah did it." Touched, Hannah smiled. Yes, Allah did it. She hugged Michael tightly, feeling a warmth she had never known. She didn't know exactly where life would take her now, but one thing was certain. She would never feel alone again. She had found something greater than herself, something that would guide her in every step, in every prayer. Faith. Moral of the story. This story isn't just about a doctor who found Islam. It's about the universal search for truth. No matter how logical or scientific our minds may be, we all seek something deeper: peace, purpose, and meaning. Sometimes the answers we search for are in places we least expect. Like Hannah, many of us have doubted or felt afraid to accept the truth. But the truth remains, no matter how long we try to avoid it. And when we finally embrace it, we realize it's the most beautiful gift we could ever receive. This story teaches us that guidance can come from anywhere, even from a child's simple words. Often, we're too busy looking outward for answers when they're already within our hearts. Never stop searching for the truth. And when you find it, don't be afraid to embrace it. The truth is the light that will guide us, always. Thank you for watching. See you in the next story.